Hi guys, quick public service announcement. The majority of people who are watching these videos and leaving comments and haven't subscribed to the channel. Now, I would love to grow this channel, so I would truly appreciate if you would just take a second, hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything, and it's motivating me to keep putting this content out. So, talking about my journey back to wellness, my exploration of the world of whiskey and cigars, or the occasional political commentary video I do. If you could take a second and hit the subscribe button, that'd be great, and the bell notification so that you get advised of when I put out a new video. Thanks again, and let's get straight to the video. Welcome back to the channel, guys, and another video about really what's going on back home in the UK. I first clued into this, or got an idea there was something, when I was watching a Fox News report talking about how the UK is returning or turning into an Orwellian nightmare. Orwellian, referring to George Orwell's 1984. And talking about the ramp up of the National Internet Intelligence Investigations Team, basically a so-called elite police force, an elite police agency dedicated to finding and uncovering anti-migrant thoughts or statements and posts online on social media. And one of the guests on the Fox News shows called it a sweeping crackdown on free speech, the likes of which we have not seen in hundreds of years. Now, I'm assuming that in hundreds of years, they mean within the Western world, where free speech has been something we've considered sacred for a very long time. And this National Internet Intelligence Investigations Unit was a spin-off from the Technology Secretary Peter Kyle's Whitehall spy unit that was active during COVID, when they were trying to uncover online discussion around the lockdowns and jab mandates. There is now a delegation from the US in London examining the impact of this new shift, this new assault on free speech, what the impact is on US citizens, because there's been some threats now that the government will have at its disposal an ability to go after the social media companies with fines and potentially imprisonment of executives. Now, obviously, this is of huge concern to the US government, and so they're examining it. But the overall feeling, the overall consensus is that, what is Starmer doing? This is absolutely, this is shocking. From an American perspective, the First Amendment to the Constitution, the right to free speech, is absolutely of almost biblical proportions. So, of course, they're very concerned. And when it does impact an American citizen, of course, that concern will increase. But it's just unbelievably shocking that we're talking about secret police agencies whose job it is to uncover and to find cases and instances of people voicing opinions, of people expressing thoughts and sharing ideas. A police unit dedicated to basically stopping that, stamping that out. It's not something we've seen since before the fall of the Berlin Wall, and it definitely smacks of the KGB, the Stasi, and any number of secret, police groups in the former Eastern Bloc. that is happening in the UK, where growing up with things like Speaker's Corner, a very robust free press that challenged the state. We took it for granted, and that now there's been a complete crumbling of that. Uh, I'm worried that with this new police unit, we're going to see a lot more Lucy Connollys, because I don't believe for a second that they're going to uncover anti-migrant sentiment and just observe it, because they've proven already that you cannot just voice opinions and thoughts or say hurty words without there being a very robust response from the state. I mean, the judiciary has already been completely politicized, as has the police being completely politicized. So I'm not convinced for one second that the only objective here is to uncover potential risks or potential threats, and to then investigate those. Again, I think it's going to be overreaching. And yeah, there'll be a lot more Lucy Connollys in prison just for voicing what up until a few years ago was just seen as people talking. Without free speech, without that fear attached to the words you utter, there can be no political debate outside of where it generally occurs in Parliament. But there's a thing called the public square where we debate with each other, we talk, we share ideas, we challenge ideas. It's the dialectic. You have the opposing voices, and out of those opposing voices comes an alternative viewpoint, or potentially an alternative viewpoint. That's the market. That's the public square. And that public square today is social media. And if people are going to be too scared to share thoughts, share ideas, and even challenge the government, and challenge the government's narrative, challenge the government's policies, then what does that mean for the state in general? What does that mean for the body politic that is the UK in general? And this isn't just. I think this is. I think the latest expression of a Western government trying to clamp down, and just really spinning an alternative view of the world they want to shape. I was watching the news recently of an RCMP officer talking about online hate, and was asked by the reporter, what are some of the things you watch out for? What are some of the things we can watch out for to determine if somebody is runs appearing to be becoming radicalized? And her response was, if they start espousing traditional values, if you know somebody who was formerly fairly liberal, and they start talking about, all of a sudden or over time, start talking about the value of the family, the importance of the family unit, perhaps expressing conservative religious views, that's concerning. That is a sign of potential right-wing extremism. If you can't espouse personal traditional family values, without running the risk of being called a right-wing extremist, this world is turned upside down. This world is really turning upside down. But if I was in the UK, I would definitely be reaching out to my MP in their constituency office and telling them exactly what I think of this. I'm not sure how far that'll get if your MP is a Labour MP, but it's thank goodness again that the Americans are examining this, because I think anything that is done will, I think, have a spin-off effect and benefit Brits. But it's on two main huge points here, we're seeing just how blatantly explicit Starmer was in his lies when he had that meeting with Trump, talking about how he's dealing with a migrant problem and talking about free speech. And it just absolutely just almost flips my stomach when I watch and I rewatch the videos of him talking about free speech. Now there's a National Internet Intelligence Investigations team to examine people talking freely on social media about what they think about the migrant crisis. All right, guys. Yeah, I'll leave it there for now. But if any, yeah, I'd really love to hear your thoughts on this, and you know, what do you think can be done? Is there anything that can stop this? Is there how do we revert back to the society where I think most of us grew up in, where there was freedom, where people could challenge, and where the press was free? You know what? I think that's one of the biggest losses in all of this the past few years, just how politicized. I mean, I know, and this is something that a Canadian reader won't necessarily understand as much, perhaps a little bit in the States, how in the UK a lot of the daily national newspapers were somewhat politically aligned to different groups. But even in that, I think there was still a sense that the press was free and you could have a free press. I think outside now of the alternative media, that's died in the UK. But yeah, let me know what you think. I'd really like to hear your thoughts. All right, guys, I'll leave it there. Again, if you haven't already, truly appreciate you subscribing. And if you like this video, giving it a thumbs up. And until the next video, look after yourselves.